was washing dishes after dinner when my phone rang. The screen lit up with Peter's name. "Hey, Pete, what's up?" "Fine," I said, tucking my phone between my shoulder and ear while scrubbing a plate. "Not much," he replied. "I'm bored. Thought I'd see if you wanted to hang out." "Sure," I said. "Come over. We can watch a movie or something." "Cool. I'll be there in 15 or 20 minutes," he said cheerfully. We hung up, and I decided to take a quick shower before he arrived. I turned on the water and stepped inside, letting the hot stream relax me. I was halfway through shampooing my hair when I heard the knocking on my door. Knock, knock, knock. Loud, urgent banging on my front door. I sighed and poked my head out of the shower. "Come in. It's open," I shouted. Silence. Maybe he hadn't heard me. Shrugging, I went back to rinsing the shampoo from my hair. Then I heard it again, sharper this time. Knock, knock, knock. Louder this time. I groaned. I said, "It's not locked. Just let yourself in." My phone rang. I grabbed it off the sink with dripping hands, frowning when I saw Peter's name again. I answered, slightly irritated. "I'm in the shower. Just come in already." But his voice was wrong. Tense, urgent. "Don't open the door," he hissed. I froze. "What? Why?" "I'm outside your apartment building." His voice dropped to a whisper. I just saw someone crawling up the wall outside your window. She's heading to your door." A chill rushed down my spine. "What do you mean crawling?" "She wasn't climbing," he whispered. "She was skittering, like a bug." I didn't move, didn't breathe. The water poured down my back, but I felt cold. Then, creak. A sound, not from the door, from inside the apartment. My stomach turned to ice. "Peter," I whispered. "She's already inside." Silence. Then, a new voice. Wrong. A wet whispering sound inches from my ear. Behind me, I turned my head slowly and saw her. She was inside my bathroom, a hunched figure, limbs twisted at unnatural angles, her body dripping wet as if she had been waiting in the shower with me all along. Her head was tilted too far to the side, her neck bending like a snapped branch. Too many joints, too many angles, but it was her face that made my stomach lurch. Her skin was pale and stretched tight, like old wet paper clinging to a skull. Her eyes, black pits, leaked something thick and dark, rotten, tar-like. Her lips curled into a grin too wide, revealing rows of jagged, needle-thin teeth. She was grinning at me. She knew I saw her. I tried to scream, but my throat locked up. The lights flickered violently. Then, she moved. Not a step, not a lunge. She twitched, a blur of jerking, unnatural motion as she skittered up the wall, her hands and feet slamming against the tiles like a giant insect. My stomach flipped. I stumbled backward, slipping on the wet floor, my phone crashing beside me. I could still hear Peter's frantic voice on the line. "B.A.? What's happening? Say something." I couldn't, because she was on the ceiling now. Her head snapped downward, twisting 180 degrees to stare at me, her mouth stretching too wide. The whisper returned. Inside my head, "I found you." The shower light shattered. Darkness, pure, suffocating darkness. Then, the breathing, wet, ragged, too close. I reached blindly for my phone, my fingers scraping against the tile. My heart slammed against my ribs as I grabbed it, shaking hands, raising it in front of me. The screen was still lit, just enough to illuminate her face. She was inches from mine, her head twisted upside down, her eyes nothing but gaping holes, her jaw unhinging like a snake's. A sickening gurgle slithered from her throat. Then she lunged. I screamed. I threw myself backward, my skull cracking against the bathtub. Pain exploded in my vision, but I didn't care. I had to get away, but she was too fast. I barely had time to blink before she was on me. Her bony fingers slammed into my shoulders, pinning me down with inhuman strength. Her limbs were spindly and sharp. Her skin stretched thin over knobby joints. I felt her nails, long, cracked, and jagged, dig into my flesh, pushing deep. Too deep. I tried to fight, to kick, but my legs tangled in the wet shower curtain. I was trapped. And then her mouth began to open, wider and wider and wider. Her jaw unhinged completely, stretching impossibly far, her cheeks splitting open like torn fabric. Thick black drool oozed down her chin, dripping onto my bare skin. It burned. Inside her mouth, there was no throat, no end, just an endless, writhing black void. Something shifting inside it. Something alive. Then she began to lower her mouth toward my face. I thrashed wildly, but she held me in place, her fingers pressing deeper, pressing inside. I felt them slithering beneath my skin, burrowing. And then the sound, a low, guttural clicking, coming from inside her chest. Slowly, her head tilted, like a bird studying its prey. Then she spoke, not with a whisper this time, with something else. A chorus. Multiple voices, layered, distorted, echoing from inside her. "Let me in," I screamed. She plunged her hand inside my mouth. Not her fingers, her whole hand. It slid down my throat, ice cold, too long, too deep. My jaw cracking open as I choked and thrashed. My lungs burned as something thick and wet slithered inside me, coiling around my ribs. I tried to breathe, but I couldn't. The world faded. Darkness rushed in, and the last thing I heard before everything collapsed into oblivion was her voice. Inside me. "Now you're mine." I woke up in darkness. My body was numb, cold, wrong. I couldn't move. I couldn't breathe. I wasn't even sure if I was still alive. Then the sound returned. Click, click, click. A wet, rhythmic ticking inside my skull. Not outside, inside me. My stomach churned violently, a sensation like something slithering beneath my skin. My fingers twitched, but they didn't feel like mine. Then, from the suffocating blackness, a voice slithered through my mind. "You let me in." It wasn't spoken. It wasn't heard. It was felt. I tried to scream, but my lips wouldn't part. My mouth was gone. No, not gone. Sealed shut. Something had stitched my lips together. Panic surged through me, my heart hammering wildly. I reached up, clawing at my face. But the second my fingers touched my skin, a new horror sank in. My hands. They weren't my hands. The fingers were too long, too many joints. The bones shifted beneath my skin. I wanted to vomit, but I couldn't. My body wasn't mine anymore. And then I saw it. A single mirror standing in the darkness. But I wasn't in my apartment. I wasn't anywhere. I was trapped in a place with no walls, no floor, no ceiling, only black. And in that single mirror, I saw what I had become. It wasn't me anymore. My limbs were twisted, elongated. My skin was stretched too tight over my bones, my face pale and gaunt, my lips stitched together with something dark and pulsing. And my eyes were black pits, oozing, leaking, just like hers. I tried to scream again, my body convulsing in terror, but all that came out was a grotesque, choking gurgle. Then, behind me, in the reflection, she appeared, right over my shoulder, smiling. Her voice seeped into my mind like poison. "Now it's your turn." And I understood. She wasn't just inside me. She had become me. And I was her now. A part of something older, something endless. And somewhere, back in the real world, someone would hear knocking at their door, and I would be the one crawling up their wall,